I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. I've got Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Jordan is systematically ruining the game of basketball. It's the most overrated player. And there you go, the Chicago Bears with a champion season. And I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad. Now listening to Open Season, your host, Billy.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Open Season. I'm your host, Billy Allen, and I'm sitting with Frankie Braddock. We've been remote for some time now, but we got a whole lot to talk about tonight. Lot of action in the NFL trade deadline. I mean, teams actually treated it like a trade deadline. Everyone in the AFC upgraded. AFC East upgraded, in my opinion, except the Patriots didn't make a move. Cardinals, Buccaneers, Packers. These teams are all below 500, preseason favorites. And the Commanders are better than the Broncos right now. We'll be talking about that. The Eagles are still undefeated. The Falcons won a stunner in overtime this weekend. And they're in first place, surprising enough. Roquan Smith changed teams today. So did Chase Claypool. Chase Edmonds went to Denver. And Ime Udoka is the new coach of the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the show, but we start out, Frankie, the Eagles, they're 7-0 right now. They just pummeled the Steelers. A.J. Brown got drug tested for his performance on Monday morning because he had 3 touchdowns, 156 yards. If you're wondering if him and Jalen Hurts have any chemistry, yeah, they're drug testing A.J. Brown for how well he's performing. They're 7-0. They're going to face the Texans, the Commanders, the Colts coming up. I mean, how long are the Eagles going to keep this going? I mean, the Eagles are easily going to be 10, 11-0. Am I right?
If the Packers don't turn around, they'll be 11-0. And then they, 50-50 against the Titans, considering health and all that. The Titans are a good team. But the cakewalks, the absolute cakewalks. Even after that, Giants, Bears. I mean, it's just Saints. Their schedule is ridiculous.
Yeah, Frankie, I was pretty excited to see Roquan Smith get saved from the Bears. I think that's going to be a pretty good fit for him with the Ravens. There was a lot of, we're going to be
fit.
Yes. And we're going to be giving some grades or, kind of looking at some of these teams. I mean, the Dolphins got Bradley Chubb. They got the Jeff Wilson. I mean, 2 huge pickups for them. What was your favorite, Nyheim Hines went to the Bills. What was your favorite pickup for anybody at this? Lot of action in the trade deadline. Who was your favorite pickup?
I think Roquan, because I'm about to start saying free everybody that's on the Bear signs. Free Mooney. I mean, that guy is good, and you can't find him with an Amber Alert right now. There's an APB out. I mean, everybody needs to leave. Khalil Herbert is going to has the potential to be the next Austin Eckler. To a lower standard. I mean, he's got size and speed, and he's can catch the ball. He can run. He's going to take that job from David Montgomery. The Bears have talent, but it just dies on that roster and in that organization, and they all need to leave. Roquan Smith leaving, I would have been happy with 31 other teams, but he went to the Ravens. That's top of his list, has to be. That's such a good fit. I love that. But I think Bradley Chubb's a better trade in the sense that the Dolphins, whether you believe they have the ceiling to win it all or not, clearly they've invested in this team, so it sends the right message to that locker room. They're 5-3, I believe. They really want to make the playoffs. They're probably going to. They're in what is really a good division, except for that shitty team out in New England. And I just feel like That is a better indicator of where they are. The Ravens are always going to contend, and it just says that they like linebackers. None of that is new. It's just nice for Roquan that he can go there. Great landing spot. But the Bradley Chubb trade says more to the league and more for the Dolphins than that says for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta like that move for the Dolphins. I always like when any team pushes their chips on the table. I mean, the Dolphins are a pretty good team this year, but you really gotta like the fact that they're going for it. Chase Claypool was traded, as we're talking about the Bears a little bit there with Roquan, Chase Claypool to the Bears for a second round pick. I thought that was a pretty high asking price for him. Granted, he was a second round pick, but I was surprised in the value that the Steelers were able to get for that pick.
He's got tons of talent, and I'm never surprised when people want to pay for it. I'm stunned when people don't. The teams you mentioned that didn't make a move, Brandon Cooks was out there. Seven time 1,000 yards, done it for 3 different teams. Like that's a legit guy that the Packers should have went and got. Like any team, the Cardinals, anybody should have went and got.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, too, is if you go back, you listen to Belichick in week 1, he was very complimentary of Chase Claypool. He honestly made a comparison of him towards Gronkowski. So it's like, if you think he's somebody that could give you Gronkowski-like results or is like Gronkowski, to give up a second-round pick wouldn't be too steep for them. Does that send a message to the Patriots? I mean, I'm surprised that they did not make some type of move.
Well, they attempted. I know we talked about it pre-show. I think it was Josina Anderson reported the Patriots were going to get Claypool, and then the Bears swoop in. And
I thought you had said that it was the Packers. I thought you had said it was the Packers before.
No, it was the Patriots. It was the Patriots. They were going to get him. And then the Bears. And first of all, they swooped in and won the sweepstakes for the second. You spent the first on N'Keal Harry. Bite the bullet if you want the guy. They're like, I find it fascinating that we were finally like, oh, we're real smart. We're gonna get Claypool for cheap. Oh, but not that cheap. Like I'm not gonna give you a second. Really? Look at what you have.
Yeah, I mean, even if the Patriots wanted to do something like going after, I mean, I guess not somebody like Hawkinson or whatever. I mean, I was a fan of Calvin Ridley, but I mean, that's not really going to do anything for them this year. The Bills get a huge addition with Nyheim Hines. I mean, do you think that, them with a running back is going to be pretty scary. I just feel like there was rumors that they might get Kamara. I feel like, that would have been the end of everything, but this should probably be a pretty good fit for Nyheim Hines there too, huh?
If they got Kamara, they still wouldn't have beaten the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes is better than Josh Allen.
Well, I agree with you there.
What was your question? I was
waiting. Some people that are cringing.
No, Nyheim Hines, look, I don't think he's an every down back. And I think he does a lot of the same things that James Cook does. I know they've decided James Cook's not ready. I know he's had fumbles and drops, but he's got the talent to do every bit of what Nyheim Hines does.
Yeah. No, and I do you feel like it was a bit of a high price for Hawkinson?
I don't think you should pay that for a tight end that's not Gronk or Tony Gonzalez. I wouldn't have given that for Shockey or Crumpler and Todd Heap. I love those guys in their day, but I'm not trading premium draft capital for them. It was the right move.
Yeah. Now, if we go back to the game last night, kind of recapping some of the games, Joe Burrow is now 0-4 against Cleveland in his career. I find that surprising because he's such a winner and, does it against all these other teams that, granted the Browns haven't been terrible, but look what teams like the Patriots have done to them over the last couple of years. The Browns will definitely out mistake themselves into losses. And I feel like that's pretty surprising to see a number like that Joe Burrow is 0-4 against the Browns. Do you think it's the fact that the Browns just managed the clock so well, running the ball? What would your guess be as to why he's 0-4?
Myles Garrett usually plays, and he's played behind Swiss cheese offensive lines.
Well, that was a lot shorter answer than I was anticipating. I
usually go forever, but I thought that was easy.
No. I'm joking. I'm just saying my build up for that was like 3 minutes long to get like a 12-word answer. It wasn't great on my part. But no, I mean, talking about some of these surprise teams as well. I watched the Giants game this weekend.
Good game.
That was a good game, and
They've
honestly,
been entertaining to watch. They're fun. They're a fun little team.
I couldn't even believe that I found myself watching that game. I mean, would you have ever assumed that you'd be watching a Giants Seahawks game on a Sunday night? When the season started, absolutely not.
Very.
But Geno Smith is not a bad quarterback. And I thought Geno Smith was a bad quarterback. Like when he came out at the draft, I kind of thought he was overrated. And then he seemed like somebody that, they said in the draft process that he was like reading his texts and stuff like that when he was meeting with executives. It just feels like this guy has done a complete 180. I feel like you got to give this guy some credit. I'm not going to go as far as to say he's like an MVP candidate like you'll hear some people doing. But I mean, I think this guy really has – this guy's floated around into 4 different teams now, but this guy's an NFL passer, and I just feel like not a lot of guys take the path that Geno Smith has taken to being able to start some games for the Seahawks this year.
He has obviously transformed, and it's wonderful to see. It's an excellent story. You see him on the sidelines. He's talking to every lineman, all the wide receivers. He's clearly got like a winning quotient and intangible factor that was not there when he was getting punched at his locker. So, I mean, hats off to Pete Carroll for seeing that. Hats off to him for doing that as a man, as a person, as a professional. It's very interesting to watch that team. I think he's kind of black Chad Pennington. I mean, I don't think he's good. You said he's a good quarterback. He's not.
I guess I'm not saying
he's not bad. He's not bad.
You could plug him in there and think that you could win a game is like all I'm saying, I guess. Like if you had to play him for 5
I'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater.
At this point or no?
Yes.
Dude, Teddy Bridgewater's arm is shot at this point, I'm telling you. I mean, I was pretty surprised when he got in some of those games. I was more of a Bridgewater fan, but for some reason I feel like he's a little bit shot now.
I think they both have no arm.
I thought Teddy Bridgewater had a somewhat decent arm back, a couple of years ago. But
before that first injury, he was good, and it's never been the same.
Yeah. Well, it was nice to see Derrick Henry. This guy's got 6 200 rushing yard games in his career. I mean, that's most ever. Guy is so impressive. I just feel like how did the Titans get rid of A.J. Brown? Like, what was the goal with that? I just don't get how you I feel like, we've said this before, but how did they get rid of A.J. Brown? The guy's 25 years old. Like, you've compared him to almost like a T.O. body type before. Like, what's the thought process there and not wanting someone like A.J. Brown? Like, you're not going to get somebody as good as him. I just can't for the life of me understand that trade.
I just think that Vrabel is rigid. I don't think he wanted to commit that much money, or I don't think he wanted to commit that large a percentage of his salary cap to that position. And I think the owner probably didn't want to write that check. And I think it's the first time he made a Bill Belichick type move that wasn't best for business out of ego and convenience because he had his owner's blessing. That's what I think. I mean, you can't look at that from a football perspective and say that was the right maneuver. You've got Derrick Henry in what has to be one of maybe 2 years left at this level before he becomes whatever he is in the secondary phase of his career, whether he gets injured or whether he can have an LT role on the Jets type of production. But he can't keep doing this. I mean, this is unbelievable. He can't keep doing this. Nobody can. And they're really not maximizing it when you get rid of a guy like A.J. Brown in his prime. It's just unbelievable.
I just like some guys are just slotted to make a certain amount. Like there's some guys that you are going to get paid. I just can't for the life of me get the thought process there. I mean, this guy's 25 years old. He's completely taken Jalen Hurts from, like a top 20 quarterback to arguably like top 10 quarterback, passing or whatever. And it's just, I don't know. That trade just like, I don't know. It's like, do you not see how this guy is it's a passing league now? Like
boggles the mind. And even though they have a good record, their receivers do struggle to get open over there.
Yeah.
Robert Woods with tons of flags this year because he's losing his composure being a number one because he's not a number one.
Yeah. And when you have someone in there like A.J. Brown as the number one, it bumps everyone down. It makes you so much deeper, if he didn't have to be the number
every position. having a guy that can score in the NBA, having a pitcher, having a closer, having people perform elite in the right seat on the bus is how you are successful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they had the right guy at a premium position in the league.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it did not take Christian McCaffrey long to get going with San Francisco. Honestly, he looked like a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo did at times. No, but you did see him in there this weekend, and he threw a touchdown as well. Ran for a touchdown, caught a touchdown. The San Francisco's 49ers look pretty good over the Rams, but I guess a lot of teams have this year. Are the San Francisco 49ers going to be a serious threat while they have Jimmy Garoppolo, or is it going to take another quarterback for you to take them seriously?
They are a legitimate and threat to win a wild card round and then maybe upset somebody in the divisional round. And there's a smidgen of possibility that they make a Super Bowl. They probably will not win with Jimmy. I think that's where his intangibles and his winningness and his leadership fall short because he's not that good at actually being quarterback. But can we revisit the Trey Lance trade? Because those 3 picks are now Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Bradley Chubb. Can we go back? Can you imagine that team with my man Garoppolo? You can win a Super Bowl if you have Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, George Kittle, Bradley Chubb. You can win with Jimmy G and those guys, and then Christian McCaffrey on top of that. You can win with that. You can win with you at quarterback and all those pieces.
So in like your mind, Frank, does somebody have to pay for that? Like, should Shanahan be fired? Like that just is such a colossal misfire over there.
It's a failure. It's bad.
Should somebody have to pay for that? Will somebody have to pay for that? Or like, what's the resolution going to be over there if they never win a title after all this?
I think usually you would. But because Shanahan is young and Lynch is young, if I'm the owner and I have to go back into the market of what is usually also reruns, also rans, and young people out of their depth like Hackett, I'd give them a chance to rebuild. I think it's time to swallow the bullet and draft a quarterback. Even if in your heart of hearts you're like, I think we actually can do this with Trey Lance. He gives us 2 plays every practice where we are confirmed in what we drafted. We just need more time to develop them, yada, yada, yada. Even if that's the belief, I think it's about time they go back into the draft because I do think that they need a quarterback that isn't Jimmy G, and they're not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
They could have went out and got Watson.
You see, in my mind, they've already sold themselves to the devil. They're already like so pot committed. Just go for it with Brady next year. Do whatever it takes to get him. Like, at least you can answer for that misfire. Even if, what's that?
You think Brady's coming back?
I do. I do. Do you think he's gonna retire? I mean, we'll go back. He's not just gonna retire. No. But do you think he's gonna retire this year or what?
For the first time in my life, I think it's on the table.
I just feel like for him, the divorce, he's not gonna go out like that. Like, he's so unenthralled over there. Like, he is just so unenthused. I feel like he's gonna do a kick your ass tour somewhere else, go to some other team. I mean, I still would not count him out of either going to the 49ers or the Dolphins next year. Those are the 2 teams that I feel like make a lot of sense, win now teams that are pot committed. What do you think?
I think if Tua was right-handed, people would think he's better. He's not elite, but he's good enough. You don't need to sell out if you're the Dolphins. I'd rather just add more weapons while he's still under a controlled contract instead of going and spending 40. If I can get Tom Brady on the cheap, sure. But I expect the team that gets him to have to spend $30 million. The 49ers are paying 19 to Garoppolo. That's same.
So do we need to come back to the table and apologize for what we've said about Tua? Because, I mean, God, this guy has turned it around too. I mean, even the fact that, I knew that he had these receivers. I knew they'd catch yards, but I mean, I didn't know that they were going to catch like 160 yards every.
It's the air yards. It's the air yards that's been impressive. I knew he's accurate, and he can move a little bit, even though he's not fast enough to scramble in the league. He's fast enough to take off if you're in zero coverage and you're man and everybody has their back turned. Quarterback sneak, all that. He's thick down the bottom, but he's the air yards are so different this year. Like high completion percentage, I assume that'd be a bunch of horizontal things. Going back preseason, I said it would be a lot of horizontal, a lot of screens, a lot of getting the ball out of his hands quickly. And yes, they've done that and do that most of the time. But in the absence of a running game, they've also been willing to take shots downfield.
Yeah.
And he's gotten the ball there, to his credit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I thought Tua, I honestly thought Tua was pretty useless, and I did not forecast this coming at all. I did not think you'd see games where, I mean, this guy's come back from behind a few times too, like 14 plus. I mean, you got to give this guy credit. What do you have, 382 yards this weekend or something like that? I mean, I didn't think you'd see him having totals like this in the NFL. I really didn't. And I got to give credit too, because I feel like, he's brittle, but, he's probably played more games than I would have thought at this point in his career. Do you think he's played more or less games than you probably would have thought at this point?
Same. I mean, I like Barkley, I knew they were going to get healthy. I just didn't know if they'd sustain it. I knew talents like that, God's going to let you see their work, even if it's Derrick Rose and they got to come back and be Pistons and Knicks Derrick Rose. Well, you'll see them in their prime, and then you'll see them as something else.
Yeah. Now, do you think the Dolphins could make any type of noise as far as making a run here in the playoffs?
They've got an elite cover man and an elite pass rusher and elite skill positions. I don't think they've got enough. I think you can get to their offensive line. I think Gesicki's great in fantasy, but not a wonderfully productive real-life tight end. And their running game is a committee that doesn't impress me, and not that it needs to be. Like Antoine Smith didn't impress anybody, but he got the job done. Him and Kevin Falk were fine. So, like, whatever.
Yeah. God, I feel like the 2021 quarterback class really is not looking good at this point. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is probably still your best quarterback from that draft, but even he doesn't look nearly as promising as you would have thought a couple of years ago. Now, I'm not going to, this guy could suck for another 2 years. I'm still not going to throw the towel in on a prospect like him. But, at this point, after this game this weekend where Mac Jones and Zach Wilson do not look good at all, I mean, who are you thinking is the best quarterback, as far as future success? Who's set up the best to succeed out of the 2021 draft class?
I think it's Lawrence, but only because I think he's the most talented and will be gone from there as fast as possible. I want the answer to be Fields because I liked him in college, but I just don't see it in the NFL. It hasn't been good. Not all of that is Bears. Zach Wilson's trash Ola. I mean, the guy's just bad. So it's a bad draft class. Like, I don't know.
I mean, Zach Wilson has no conscience. If that guy could throw out of bounds, they would have beat the Pats by 20 on this weekend. It's incredible.
He thinks he's in his backyard constantly. He is the worst quarterback to lead grown men. It's bad. It's like short Jameis Winston.
It's unreal. If you could just teach this guy to, when you don't have it, just literally throw the ball out of bounds. I mean, that was the worst thing. He'd like throw these balls to the sideline that would just like float and somebody would just pick it up. Those two balls that were thrown to McCourty were thrown to like McCourty's chest. I mean, I haven't seen two worse interceptions. And I mean, I don't know. So as far as like a prospect, would you rather have Mac Jones or Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Mac Jones has it. I just don't think he's got it. Whatever it is, he doesn't have it.
He sounds so whiny after the games, too. I mean,
he sounds like everything you hear behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, every single interview. He's not it.
Yeah.
And if he was on a talented team and he had Belichick as a coach, he'd be winning 12 games and going, deep in the playoffs. And that's the reality of it. But he's not. This roster is bad. Bill brought his friends back to be offensive coordinators. And the quarterback's not good enough to overcompensate for any of it.
It tells you everything you need to know when an organization like the Patriots is celebrating being second all time in coaching. It's almost as if people feel like, I'm kind of shocked about this. I feel like it's almost like people might know that maybe he's not going to hit the Shula record anytime soon or something like that. I mean, for the Patriots to be celebrating that type of accomplishment, it just kind of shows you where we are this year.
Let him get it if you're Kraft.
What's that?
Don't you have to let him get it if you're Kraft?
Oh, you definitely have to, for sure.
You got rid of Brady, Bledsoe, Parcells, and Belichick. You're going to add Belichick to that list?
They're never going to get rid of Belichick. They sold their soul to the devil years ago when they decided
should have traded them both. One to the Niners, one to the Giants. You would have McDaniels and that stallion Jimmy G, and you could have built around him with all those firsts.
Ugh.
Look at how the Raiders are doing. It would have been like that, but good.
Yeah.
And we would have kept Brandon Cooks because that's why we got him, was for Jimmy.
Just tells you everything you need to know about Jimmy Garoppolo. When that Green Bay game in the playoffs a few years ago, what did Jimmy throw? Like 8 passes in the second half. They could not take the ball out of his hands fast enough. And that just shows you that I just feel like he's a guy that gets the ball to really good weapons. A lot of quarterbacks could do what he does. He's not particularly clutch. He's not a particularly good decision maker. Like he throws the ball short. He's like Alex Smith, for God's sake.
There's a lot of slick on the ball from all the gloves and stickum and substances that the wide receivers and running backs use. So when you have to jam it into the running back's pocket, his air pocket, it takes a lot of skill. I mean, to trust a guy to hand it off that many times is really a testament to Jimmy Garoppolo's skill and precision at just that one thing. Now you want to talk about play action and game winning percentage. I mean, he has been elite at a few things in his life and in his career, and winning just happens to be one of them. Got it right in the pocket of those running backs, right in their wheelhouse. No fumble, no bobble, no tripping on each other's feet. I mean, just precision, okay?
Yeah. I don't even know how to respond to that, really. Jimmy Garoppolo, so many guys could do what he does.
We should have a Jimmy Garoppolo segment because we talk about him for about 3 minutes every show.
Yeah,
you're wrong every time.
We should just ring a bell. No, I don't feel like I am. I mean, I feel like.
Or what do the numbers say, Billy?
The numbers say that nobody good has started over there to be able to give us any type of real data, I'd say.
I think the numbers imply that. I think the numbers say that Jimmy Garoppolo is a hell of a winner for that organization, despite their numerous attempts to replace him.
Yeah. I feel like this weekend is kind of devoid of big games upcoming. Is there any particularly game that you're looking at? I would have said like the Bucks-Rams game. If before the season, I would have said that would have been maybe one of the biggest games going. But where are you focused this weekend as far as like the biggest games?
Look, I'm always going to say Patriots first. I mean, I watched that game before anything else so that I get around to the rest.
The Pats Colts is going to be a barn burner. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it's going to be ugly, boy. It's going to be ugly. I remember when we used to muck it up with Tom and we'd have 18 points against the Colts in the third quarter. I'd be like, oh my God, this is bludgeoning. Why are we doing this death by 1,000 paper cuts? Now we're doing that, but we're punting. And it makes the game so much longer and less enjoyable.
Yeah,
I know that's not a real good national take, but for me, that's where my eyes landed. And also, it's still Rams Bucks, and I think the Rams are playing with house money because they just won. Like, I just feel like there's no freaking way the Bucks aren't going to win this division. There's no way the Bucks don't win their division.
I feel like that too. I mean, people that are like looking at Atlanta in first place. I mean, that's so temporary. It's going to be as temporary as this weekend.
I think Commanders Viking is a nice upset alert. Just Commanders have the ability to rush the passer. And I just think the Vikings they should be good. I don't think they're this good, and water always finds its level. The Jets get to test themselves. Yes, they're going to lose. How much do they lose by? What does that game look like? Are they same old Jets? They just lost to the Patriots, and you have to understand they had to think they were going to win. We finally got the Patriots. After
Well, I mean,
all,
I think there's no question that the Jets are the better team.
and they thought they would win. Bengals have to get right. Packers have to get right. Like, there's no game that jumps off the page to me. But
yeah, it's surprising. I feel like there's really no standout. I mean, every week there's usually like a standout matchup. I really feel like there's not one.
with this
week.
trade deadline, every game is must see. Though, what does all that look like?
For sure. I'm just saying, there's not that one game that you're like, you have to
marquee.
Yeah. I mean, for your individual team, there's a game, but like
it's got to be Bucks Rams.
Yeah, that's probably got to be the best one. But I mean, for where both teams are at right now, it's not like an incredible matchup, But based off their past performance of last year and the year before, yeah.
Can you see this being the cliff for Tom Brady?
See, I don't think so. I mean, Tom Brady, I feel like he has clearly struggled a bit more in the pocket this year, but I feel like he can still throw the ball. I mean, Tom Brady is still making throws that are impressive. And I feel like if he was on a team that was doing him, I don't want to make excuses, but when you're 45, if you're around a team that could give you a little bit more time in the pocket, I feel like he could still be damn effective. I feel like if he were to go to a team that allowed him to do that, he could still be fine. So I don't think he's in danger of the cliff right now as far as his arm. I think that's really like the most important thing.
Does it affect his legacy if he goes to another team? If he continues to cherry pick and does what people get burned for doing in the NBA, does he ever get flack for it?
I would say he'd be more likely to get flack if he doesn't do well. If he goes to another team and it's not a glorious ending, that will definitely be like, whoa, like, what are you doing? If he were to go to another team and they have a decent playoff run or something like that, I feel like that would change it a little bit. So I'd say it's really all about how he were to perform if he were to go to another team. I think if he did decent, people would look like, wow, he could go team to team and do well. But if
what team would he go to?
I still think it's going to be something like the Dolphins or the 49ers. I think those are I think it's going to be a team that's Brady at this point doesn't need the money. He's probably more likely to do the legacy play. I know he's really good friends with the guy in Miami, and I know that the 49ers is a lure that he's always had. So I think those are two storylines that intrigue him. So I don't really think it's about making the money or anything. Like he'd go there for whatever, as long as Tampa will let him.
I would like to see him go to Las Vegas or San Francisco. And if he goes to Vegas and they don't want McDaniels, or he doesn't, because I know they had beef at the end of his time here, I would like them to get Sean Payton, because I would love to see Sean Payton, Tom Brady, Devontae Adams in Las Vegas for the Raiders. I'm trying to speak it into existence. I know Tom Brady, the Raiders were on that list. Other people have come out and said it. The Raiders were also on that list when he left here. So he was looking at property. He's gonna need to buy a new house. Why not Vegas? That's what I hope.
Yeah, I mean, as we're talking about Las Vegas, do you find it crazy that people are already like talking for Josh McDaniels to be fired?
No, you should always give somebody at least 20 games, close to 2 years, unless it's catastrophic. Nathaniel Hackett couldn't be gone now. That wouldn't be premature. If you fired him yesterday, you already gave him too long. That guy is just out of his depth. He's just not. He clearly doesn't understand Russell Wilson has to be looking at Pete Carroll and Seattle with egg firmly all over his face. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of knew that Russell Wilson was like this, and then this year has affirmed everything that we thought. This year has been like the uncloaking of Russell Wilson.
I thought he was better than this. I mean, I thought he was better than this.
He's spicy.
No, I understand all those things, but I thought he was better on field.
No, I did too. I mean, I am truly shocked at his performance this year. I would have never expected. I would have maybe assumed this in like another 2 or 3 years. I thought like the first 2 years were going to be like a perfect marriage for him there, because I would have thought he would have performed well. And I didn't think that they were going to win a Super Bowl this year, but I thought they'd be a playoff team for damn sure. So,
Am I wrong? Are Jerry Jeudy and Cameron Sutton just not good? Because the Broncos seem to desperately want to trade Jeudy for whatever reason, and they don't seem to want to throw to Sutton. So I don't understand what like their game plan is for their team.
I think Jerry Jeudy is good. I kind of always thought that Sutton was like nothing super special. He just kind of seemed to be like the vet guy that got catches there. Like
I think Cameron Sutton is like Michael Pittman Jr. Similar build, similar
Yeah.
limitations.
Yeah. So it's still like ultimately probably not who you want to be your number one, is what I would say, right?
Yes.
Really good too. And, on some team, maybe a one, but
But what if Judy's a two? What if you have two twos?
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. To what we talked about earlier, though, I still really do believe in the fact that you need to have that guy that you can throw to when the coverage breaks down and you just know that some guy will go up and get it. There's not even that many of those guys, but you got to try to do everything you can to have one. And those guys are probably, neither of those guys are probably that.
No, neither. Well, Judy's got the potential to be. I'm not sure he is.
Judy has the potential. He hasn't executed on it.
Ever. Yes, I agree.
So Josh McDaniels, like I said, he was, I guess he met with Mark Davis. He was, apologizing to Raider Nation for being 2-5. Some people are already talking about the potential of him coming back to New England. I think that's really far-fetched. I just feel like this is really his last chance. I mean, he's going to see it out there he's going to be there for this year, next year. I would say that he's like pretty much guaranteed to coach the next 2 years there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and that goes back to what I said. You got to give a year and a half, 2 years. Look, football's an operation. And this isn't college, they're grown men. The idea that most people are going to walk, and that's what makes what Daboll doing is so special. What both Harbaugh brothers, I know Jim overstayed his welcome, but what they both did to their respective franchises, they just came in and gave them a boost, a revival. It's tough to do that, though. Usually it's either a massive player acquisition, a quarterback acquisition that's coupled with a coach coming in. It's not usually just a coach in that league, even though the coach matters in that league more than most.
Yeah. So to switch gears a little bit, the big news tonight, this afternoon in the NBA was Ime Udoka. After Steve Nash got fired today, Ime Udoka gets hired as the new coach. Well, apparently it could take like 24 to 48 hours to get done officially, but Ime Udoka hired as the coach for Brooklyn, and pretty crazy situation because you feel like you're just really wondering what truly happened. Is it the thing where Matt Barnes said it was 100 times worse than what we had heard? Is it something where the Celtics were right for getting rid of him for a year? I just feel like it's crazy because I felt like what the Celtics were doing in suspending him for a year was making it so that he couldn't go to Brooklyn. And not only does he go to Brooklyn, but they don't get anything for him. I mean, they had his rights. They could have controlled the fact of him not going to Brooklyn. So it's like, man, they must really think nothing of him to let him go to one of their top, their top rivals for nothing.
It is classic Boston sports team hubris, like only we can. Not only do we do the smear campaigns on the way out, but we do things like this. It's predictable.
Yeah. But it's just like you felt like, it's funny because teams are like, wow, the Brooklyn's such a mess. Well, last year, the Celtics were 2-5. Right now, Brooklyn's 2-5. And, I'm not making a comparison for those two teams, just saying that you could be, Ime Udoka. What if he could be the guy that turns around Ben Simmons? And that's a lot of talent that he has to work with. That roster financially has some issues, but to be at a starting place where you have the talent between Kyrie, Durant, Simmons, and then you have the coaching of Udoka, that's a pretty good place to start.
I just think Ime Udoka hurt somebody's feelings in the front office. And so in return, they cut off their hand to spite their face, or their nose to spite their face, rather. And you let this guy out the door for nothing. You let him out the door for nothing. Like, listen, I don't ask for a shred of moral compass in sports. Give me all the tampering and all the medication. Just, regulate it and get doctors involved. But give all the roids, HGH, give them all out. Just let it happen. We're fine, because that's what they're doing anyway.
Yeah.
To let this guy go for nothing because you'd rather suspend him than deal with it it's stunning hubris and arrogance. Like, it's really something only a Boston sports team would do.
Yeah.
Like a James Dolan. Like, I know Whit Grossbeck doesn't deserve a lot of criticism. He's been a very good, what is he, governor? He's been a very good majority owner.
Yeah, I mean, and so what would you say to, like, people that might say, like, hey, the Nets are an embarrassment for making this hire? I mean, for me, I think it's unfortunate that Udoka did some of these things and all that, but it's kind of like, I like the fact that they're willing to win at all costs. It's like you feel like Udoka is going to help you get more wins. They were a mess before. I mean, I feel like if I'm a fan, I like the fact that they got Udoka. I don't really care about the black cloud as much. I mean, do I think that's great? Do I want to endorse it? No. But if I'm a fan, as far as getting the results that I want, I'm happy that they got Udoka.
You should be ecstatic. And for the record, the players don't care, and that's why the owner shouldn't care.
Right.
The player doesn't care. Like, if you got to lock up your relationship, then you could do that on your own time. If winning is the number one thing, and it's not for everybody. A lot of these teams are portfolios in a much bigger rich guy's world. But if you want to win, the players don't care. And he makes you better today. Today, not yesterday, like today. So, Great pickup. We got nothing. Absolutely zero. Zilch nada.
So it's just like, what was the point for the Celtics to suspend him? Because you felt like
they're gonna say we got to wash our hands clean. It wasn't about compensation, Billy. Don't you know?
But it's just like, couldn't you have gotten rid of him if you? I guess it's just like, on one hand, you thought it was so bad that you could suspend him all this time, but on the other hand, like, you don't care if he just goes for nothing to this. It's just kind of a confusing situation. You're just like, what was the whole impetus behind it?
They didn't want to buy him out. He wasn't going to touch the team ever again. And this allows them to not pay him another dollar.
Yeah.
And if they want to trade him, they're going to have to speak with him. They're going to have to deal with him. I don't think anybody is willing to deal with him or his agent right now from that organization, from our organization.
Yeah.
So again, it's hubris. It's cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's very Boston. We're just going to wash our hands clean and claim moral high ground.
I mean, call me crazy, but I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to get dramatically better from this point forward. I really do.
I wouldn't say dramatically ever based on a coach, because it's the NBA, so coaches don't matter, and that team is full of poison.
That team was just headed towards being a steaming pile of dog poo.
And they might still be that pile of dog poo. Ime Udoka is not like, he's a good coach. We get it. He is not great.
He's just not going to let those guys off the hook, which is going to honestly be their biggest problem. I mean, again, I agree with what you're saying. Coaches are not huge, but what Ime Udoka does as far as like holding guys accountable is like what those two need more. Like, no one's ever questioned their talent. It's more so like, can you stop the BS with them? I feel like he is a great fit for them.
It's not. Accountability for humans should be easy with a good leader. That's your point, and that's what he brings to the table as an intangible. Kyrie's crazy. Ben Simmons is mental issues. Kevin Durant is one of the most fragile athletes of all time. So holding them accountable might not be possible. And what I mean is, you can hold them accountable, but they might like rebel against you. Like, holding Ben Simmons accountable might mean you don't have him for a month because of mental illness. Holding Kyrie accountable might mean he's going to sit out for 3 months because he doesn't like his situation in life and has to go make more ignorant comments.
I just feel like Ime, when he went in there, is telling them that, like, hey, like, I want to, like, actually win. Like, we're not going to – I feel like they know what they're getting with Ime Udoka, do they not?
I think Durant wanted it, and it makes them happy. I don't know that Kyrie wants it. I bet you Kyrie thinks he wants it right now, but Kyrie is really good at leaving bad situations, or really good.
Change his mind in the morning.
No, but he's really good at leaving good situations. Kyrie twice in his career has been like, "Oh, I'm in an incredibly promising, fortunate position. Let me force my way out."
Yeah. Taking more shots than LeBron on a NBA championship team wasn't good enough. You know, having the entire Celtics, all that young talent, and being the clear leader of that team, it is crazy.
And again,
I think Durant is the biggest fool though for following him to Brooklyn. If he had stayed with the Warriors and just won, would we really question it if Durant had like 5 rings when it was all over? If he had gone to a team, so I don't know. I think he could have kept winning MVPs there, and at some point, it's like, what are we going to say to a guy that's got 5 Finals MVPs, 5 championships, and whatever other accolades you wanted to put towards it? But I think that was a colossal misstep for him. Now, is that really going to hurt his legacy? Not really, because he's so good and been such a good scorer. But you know that was a huge mistake. You got to wonder, like, I mean, man, what a terrible guy to hitch your wagon to if you're Kevin Durant. You really can't understand it.
When Udoka came here, holding people accountable is what we needed. Those players might not be the buttons that you push. I just don't know if anybody in the world has the buttons to push for a Ben.
I agree with that. I guess I'm just saying, like, but I also, it's funny because I do agree with you that coaches don't do a whole lot. It's all about the talent. I guess what I'm saying is that team has the talent. It's not like, you know, they have the ultimate talent. If you can just tweak that talent mentally.
Can he beat Phil Jackson?
And now, is that going to be the toughest task? For sure. But I guess if there's, you know, maybe not a lot of guys who could do it, he's one of the guys that could do it.
Udoka reminds me of Pat Riley. He reminds me of Popovich. I think they need a Phil Jackson, this team. And I just don't think Ime's that. Not everybody needs, you know what I mean? Not everybody needs the same thing.
Yeah. Let's see. So, you know, Cleveland the other night, you know, beats Boston in overtime. I mean, Cleveland is a tall team. Evan Mobley, I mean, at the end of that game, he was able to get in front of Tatum and like lock him down, which was incredibly impressive for a guy so big. You know, Celtics are about to play Cleveland again, but Cleveland looks like a team that could be a legit good team. I mean, they just feel like a well-built team, Frank. I mean, you know, like they have a lot of size, and then they now have the skill too.
Yeah, it was the right move. It was always the right move. Look, Donovan Mitchell's great. And I was saying this before the show. He's up to 7 assists a game. That will come down. Water finds its level. But if he can get to 6.5, that's all you're asking for. And Garland's been hurt. So they're not even at full strength. I don't believe in them yet because it would be, you know, way too early in their development. But they should be winning games. They should be good. Gordon Hayward left the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell went there, and they won almost the same amount of games. They were a 5th seed the year before. They were a 5th seed that year.
So what are you saying? What does that mean?
And he's a winning player. I know he's a liability on defense. They surrounded him with better defensive players over in Cleveland.
I mean, I feel like it's hard to go too far into the NBA without talking about Luka Doncic. I mean, that guy is scoring at will right now. He's tied one of Jordan's records for first 6 game of the year. You know, hadn't scored less than 30 points. You know, this guy just feels like he's been able to do this his whole career, but it's just like, I feel like Doncic is a guy that everything about what he does is such a blend for like allowing him to dominate the NBA at this point with the way this NBA is. Like, he's perfectly suited for it. Like a guy this size, that can just kind of like get to his spots, and he's so creative. Like, he's not the best athlete, but he's just such a creative guy. It's awesome to watch him play.
He is what's right and wrong with like the millennial athlete or the Gen Y athlete, whatever was the generation after millennial. He is almost like a soccer player. I mean, the guy's just got such a large bag, so much skill, but he's flopping, talking to the refs, all the hand gestures, the facial expressions. The guy should go into commercials and acting because, oh my lord, is he constantly with the faces and the pouting and the this and the this. He belongs on the Celtics. With all that bitching to the refs, he belongs on the Celtics. I mean, good lord.
They'd have a field day.
But outside of that, how could you not love watching him? Like, even if that stuff is so intolerable that it makes you dislike him as a player, how could you not like watching this player?
Yeah.
A guy who's not uber athletic, a guy who's thinking 3 frames ahead, a guy who's an excellent passer, can get to wherever he wants to on the court, has so many moves, the turnaround can turn over either shoulder and hit jump shots, went from having limited range to unlimited range, especially if it's a game winner, even if you trip him. He's so fun to watch.
He really is.
And it looks, and I hate to say this about Giannis, and Harden said some of this, Giannis is just so big, strong, and fast. It's why Shaq didn't keep winning MVPs. People don't respect you being bigger, faster, and stronger.
Yeah, but Giannis, I respect Giannis because he's added so much to his game.
I
like
agree.
He's not just that physical freak. Like, he would not be this level if he had just.
But I think it's easier to work your body into that level of shape with those genes and then learn basketball than it is for Luka to play an NBA game at that speed, being as slow as he is. You've got to have IQ for that. Some of that is God-given.
Yeah.
In the same way Giannis has God-given for the talent and the genes, like Luka has some of that for just his mind for the game. And it looks better. His brand of basketball looks more enjoyable. It's less clunky, less physically dominating. It's razzle-dazzle. There's showtime. It's a razzmatazz.
Why does Luka and the Matt, why do they own the Suns? I don't understand. I feel like the Suns are a good team with a guy in Booker who, he's not as good as Luka, but he's like kind of right there.
Because he's not as good as Luka, and it hurts his feelings. And it takes him out of the game, and it makes his teammates try too hard. They end up fouling. That team self-destructs. All because of one guy.
Who else is good on the Mavs? That team has nobody else but Luka, and the Suns are like this well-oiled team that's made.
Campazzo is a wonderful backup guard. You will not be disrespecting him tonight or any other night.
Hey, Jalen Brunson, the new king of New York, he's gone now.
And what's he doing?
I mean, he's been doing pretty well so far, actually, for the Knicks. I want to crap on him, but
aren't they like 3-3? What is their record? Aren't they 500?
Yeah, they may not be good, but he's probably been better than what I would have thought, to be honest.
I love how I phrase things. I said, aren't they under 500? They're 3-3, and we're 4-2. They're one game behind us, but I phrased it in a way that made
they under 500. Yeah.
You see, that's the magic. That's the magic of the whole thing. Sorry for revealing the trick, but I felt that was wrong to say because he has been playing well and they've been playing fine, but also they're under 500. Or they're 500 and they're not good.
Yep.
They've got a bunch of threes on that team. We've talked about it before. And a bunch of 2s and 3s. No 1s. Nothing even approaching a 1.
Yeah, but I feel like the Cavs, I just feel like they're a team to start to take seriously. They have Darius Garland returning this week, and I just feel like I was really impressed by their length. They're going to make it tough on teams defensively.
I really like the Cavs. I'm just not I'm not sold on them. I'm not ready to say, hey, I think they can make actual noise.
It's pretty impressive how quickly they've rebuilt things post LeBron. I mean, teams usually just crumble and burn for 10 years once LeBron leaves them. It's it didn't happen overnight, but a pretty decent turnaround for them.
I was going to say the pandemic's helped you because it's been like 5 or 6 years.
Hey, man. I mean, that's still a fairly decent turnaround from like tearing it all the way down and losing LeBron.
They traded Kyrie before that for picks that turned out to be Garland and Sexton. Sexton got you Mitchell, who's helped you turn it around. So again, like your cupboard wasn't bare when you started, and then because it didn't work out with Sexton, who by the way got you Mitchell, you were bad enough with him on the team that you got Mobley. So they had some disappointing years. There were years 2 years ago where they thought they were going to be good.
Yeah. So the Blazers are one team I feel like are definitely worth mentioning. They've been probably like the biggest surprise for me this year. Damian Lillard is kind of like returned to his old self. Um, Nurkic, Anthony Simmons, Shadon Sharp is like ridiculous in his minutes play. Like he plays like 18 minutes and averages almost 10 points or something like that. So the Blazers have been a pretty surprising team. Do you think that they can be decent? Like would you be afraid of them long term at all? I just feel like I'm still not fearing them.
I'm going to say the one thing I always say: when you have the best player in a series, I won't be shocked if you win. So when you have Dame, you can win a lot of series. That team's not good enough to really make any real noise. And I'm sorry to say that. They have been good. They've got Dame. Dame is amazing.
Where do you land in terms of like the respect on Dame? Do you more so respect that he's like sat there all those years and not won, or are you pissed that he hasn't like clamored more to go to a contender and that you'd be able to see?
I want to split the difference. If you're going to stay, to not have taken your career in your hands by now is the wrong thing to do. If you want to stay and be loyal, I am very much like that. I can empathize with that. I do that. I'm like that. I get it. But if I was going to stay as talented as Dame is, no, I'm going to have a say in free agency. Like you don't have to listen to me, but I'm not going to have no say. You're not going to continue to surround me with nobody. The idea that we had McCollum and Beal was on the market and we didn't get him for me, even though I don't think that actually fits on the court. But again, if you're the Blazers, the fact that you haven't gotten me a number 2 and even a number 3, like I haven't played with anybody elite since LaMarcus Aldridge my rookie year, if I'm him.
Yeah, I feel like what the Blazers have done is they've gotten pretty deep now. Like they have like Jeremy Grant, like Sharp, Winslow, but they still don't have like the top 10. I mean, like, they're doing good things over there. They have a decent center. They just now need somebody that, they had McCollum. They basically need somebody to come in there that's like better than McCollum.
Yeah.
But that's going to take a while to do. I mean, Lillard is going to be too old by the time that happens. So.
Yeah, that's my point. It's too late now. You say, do you respect him more? No, I don't respect him more because he stayed, because he didn't take his career in his hands.
Well, it's just funny. Like at this point, you like don't even respect the guys that are loyal. You know what I mean? It's like there's really no way for these players to win.
No, it's always been about winning. But like Magic got a coach fired his sophomore year. Like the elite player, Jordan got Doug Collins, the guy he likes, fired.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, these guys will take control. Kobe got Phil Jackson fired. At the end of the day, you got to do better.
Mm-hmm. Are you concerned at all about the Warriors? They got off to a good start, like won their first couple games, and then they've been pretty putrid since. Do you think that this is like a hangover from the finals? Do you think that they're a team that can kind of just get it together when they want to? Or is this something that's maybe the sign of them getting a little bit too old? Or
they need to take Wiseman, Curry, and Poole and figure out what they need to do. Klay Thompson's going to need to eat some humble pie because that team does need the skills he'll have, even aged and after the injuries. He'll always be an elite standstill shooter, and even though he'll never be that defender, that's a role. You know what I mean? And I think Wiseman's going to be great. Draymond Green, they got to phase out. And I don't know that. I know they paid Wiggins. I don't know why they did that. But I'm not. I think they can flip. They do have a switch, much like that mid-aughties Pistons team that just wouldn't take the regular season seriously. They were just like, we've been to the Eastern Conference Finals for a half a decade. We just don't care about Milwaukee. Well, at the time, Milwaukee in February. But it's dangerous when you still need to work in Poole and Wiseman. Poole's been around the rest of them enough, but Poole and Wiseman need to learn how to play together. Because in theory, you're going to have both those guys for the next 5 years or so.
God, I was just, as we're talking about like the Warriors and stuff like that, I was looking at Grant Williams is number 1 in 3-point percentage, and Kelly Olynyk is number 5 right now. If you ever told me that Grant Williams and Kelly Olynyk would be 1 and 5,
they won't take enough to actually qualify.
No, they definitely won't. Kelly Olynyk, though, for Utah, who we talked about it before the show, they're supposed to tank. I mean, Kelly Olynyk is having a decent year over there. Like, I always want to crap on that guy, but Utah, for some reason, is winning games. I really don't even know why. I can't necessarily tell you why. Why do you think that they've been better than expected so far this year as we, close things out?
I think Sexton's good. And this is a team that has no ego on the team that can challenge him. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you? But I've actually got to head out. I know I usually want to do the overrun, but I've actually got to head out tonight, my friend.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us.
Have a great night.
See you next week.